Good evening. Call the meeting to the Urban Renewal to order. Have a roll call, please.
Commissioner Dennehy?
Here.
Commissioner Gonzalez? Absent. Commissioner Grantham?
Here.
Absent. Commissioner Jaquez?
He was here,
he's here.
Cindy.
I'll try that
Oh,
again.
okay.
I'll try that again. Here.
Thank you.
That's a good one.
Commissioner Jaquez? Absent. Commissioner Hamrick?
Here.
Commissioner Reeve? Absent. Commissioner Reeser?
Here.
Commissioner Schmisher?
Here.
Commissioner A. Smith?
Here.
Commissioner B. Smith?
Here.
Chairman Payne?
Present. I'd ask you to stand with me to do the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Item 2 is citizens requesting to speak in front of the Urban Renewal Authority. I don't see anybody in the audience. We'll move on to the consent agenda. Item A, approve minutes for the August 4th, 2021 meeting.
Mr. Chair, I move that we approve the consent agenda.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded for item A, approve the minutes of August 4th.
Commissioner Payne, is it?
Do we do the list of bills at the same time
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
for the whole consent agenda? Okay. I knew that. I was just checking with you guys if you were, on top of that. Okay. Roll call, please.
Commissioner Dennehy?
Aye.
Commissioner Grantham?
Aye.
Commissioner Hamrick?
Aye.
Commissioner Reeser?
Aye.
Commissioner Schmisher?
Aye.
Commissioner A. Smith?
Aye.
Commissioner B. Smith?
Aye.
Chairman Payne?
Aye. Move on to item number 4, it's financial report. I invite the treasurer to give a complete financial report.
So in the beginning of August, the balance was $343,993.67. We had a $2,400 expenditure to Ricker Cunningham for URA advisory services, which covered the period of March 6th through July 15th. Ending balance at the end of August, $341,593.67. In September, we had a reimbursement for the Ice House sewer revenue to the city, $32,324, which gives us a September 30th balance of $309,269.67.
Any questions and or discussion on the financial report? Okay. Move on to the executive director report. Ryan?
We are continuing to work on a couple of different agreements, one with the Holiday Inn Express and the other with the TZAC Fremont National Bank building. Both of those are in negotiation. We're bringing forward the Pharisee Boys agreement today. As you may have seen, our first project, the Hotel St. Cloud, is receiving state funding in the amount of $3 million, which is going to help close their financial gap. And they are planning on starting construction in mid-November. A couple other items of note, not necessarily urban renewal projects, but within the urban renewal area. Natural Grocers, which announced a couple months ago that they were coming to Canyon City, They have submitted their building plans. They've been through the first round of review. So hoping that those, they'll be starting that project fairly soon. And then the Abbey site has been under contract for a couple of years now. They have submitted a planned development district application to the city, and that will be going before Planning Commission later this month.
Okay. Any comments or questions? John?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So Ryan, right now, we're about $309,000 in the bank for the URA. Do you foresee any future expenditures like the ice house sewer line that are going to be larger draws on our nest egg, so to speak? And do you have some idea when we may be starting to see taxes flow into our coffers?
Yeah. We're working on the budget for next year. We will have that to the commission by the 15th of October. We don't necessarily foresee any large expenditures such as the sewer line for over there at the ice plant or the Skyline Steel site. We did approve some facade improvements earlier this year, so we do have some expenses that will be coming back against those approvals for that grant program. And then there's also $50,000 for the life safety improvement for World's End Brewery. They completed that work, the physical work earlier, well, I guess it's last week, waiting on their final inspections and for them to submit their invoices to the Urban Renewal for reimbursement. So we will be seeing some of those expenses coming out here in the near future. We do have, the finance department is working on incremental sales tax revenue and identifying the base versus what has been generated from an incremental sales tax basis. So we do anticipate that there will be some revenues coming in from that standpoint. And then the final piece, regarding any property tax increment, Rick, myself, Tammy Nordyke, and the city's finance director, and Corey Hoffman, attorney, will be setting up some time to talk about that and setting up some additional meetings with the county assessor and the county to make sure that we're all on the same page regarding how that's going to flow.
So on that, it is actually the county assessor that establishes the base. Is that not correct?
Regarding property tax,
Yes.
yes.
Mm-hmm. Yes, thank you.
Any other questions or comments? Okay, we'll move to item A, which is authorize the executive director to sign a redevelopment agreement with FB Auto Properties LLC, which is Pharisee Ford. Any discussion on that?
Several months ago, we had some sessions discussing and getting direction from the commission regarding the Pharisee Boys proposal. The agreement in front of you is a reflection of those discussions, $1 million of payback over 17 years. And we'll turn it over to Rick for any additional comments.
Yeah, refresh your memory on the background of this project. Pharisee Brothers came to us with an ask of about $868,000. That was according to the analysis of Ricker Cunningham. The value of the project was slated at about $6.2 million. The project cost was around $7 million, which has gone up since then because of increased costs of product, which left a gap of about $868,000. At the time, the board was not as positive about the idea of supporting them. They then had an appraisal done, their lender had an appraisal done that put the value of the building after construction at $4,450,000, which left a significant gap. The appraisal mentioned something called external obsolescence, if you recall. that basically meant that Ford was building a building that was over-improving the neighborhood. So this came back to executive session, and I was not at that executive session, but the board then gave us permission, authorization to negotiate, because that is the pure definition of what TIF funding is all about, is trying to upgrade the neighborhoods in blighted communities like that, to assist developers in paying those extra costs to upgrade. So we went into negotiation with them. We reevaluated Ricker Cunningham's work. We looked at property tax. We looked at sales tax, and determined that $1 million over 15 years was a conservative but favorable ask. Ben Farrisee and I have had a number of conversations about it, and he actually asked for 24 years of TIF reimbursement. We, of course, didn't agree to that, but he was asking because he could ask, and the ask was significant. The gap was significant. So we agreed at $1 million over 17 years. We had offered 15. He requested 17, primarily because of the lack or the lag of timing with the TIF increment to the city. In other words, the value of the building won't go up until the project is done. When will the city get that increment? Well, when will we be able to reimburse off of that increment? So we agreed to move it out to 17 years, so he would get potentially 15 years of full reimbursement. The $1 million includes property tax and sales tax. And like I said, it's a very conservative number. The property tax increment is based on the appraised value of $4,450,000, not the $7 million that he's anticipating paying. And he was very favorable with that idea because he doesn't like the thought of his building going to $7 million. And it's very likely that the assessor will go with the appraised value since there's a written appraisal. So we came up with the 17-year term for $1 million. He was very favorable to that. He signed off on that. And that's what we present to you today.
And that, just to clarify, that $1 million is for public infrastructure, public improvements, and the agreement is worded in a way that it's whichever happens first, 17 years or $1 million.
Correct.
Any questions or comments?
And I should add that he regrets not being here. He's flying home from Texas right now, so he couldn't be here. He wanted to be here. He asked that if there's anything that needs his attention, any questions for him, and if this needs to be delayed for that, then he asked that we table this until next month.
John? You have something?
Sure, I sure do. So this is an agreement where we talk about the reimbursement amount of $1 million for eligible costs in accordance with Exhibit B.
Correct.
Okay.
Yes.
Where's the $1 million on Exhibit B?
It falls right in the middle of the two analyses that were provided on that. The first one is an analysis of when we went through his costs, what we considered, and this is not a professional analysis in any way, what we considered the public improvements qualifying expenses. The other one, let me look at that again. The other one identifies the external obsolescence because that's an identifiable number that was provided by the appraiser. And after our analysis of the anticipated TIF and sales tax, we agreed on a number that splits that difference at $1 million.
So
this section is really evidence of the need of the gap.
well, so I have a concern there. And my concern is that we have an agreement that specifies an amount for reimbursement for eligible expenses, and we don't have a listing of eligible expenses that total $1 million in our Exhibit B. That's my concern.
The challenge there, sorry, go ahead.
I also have a question. I thought we agreed that we would pay for the public improvements, and that's 775,000, obviously. So we just elected to do more than the public
I'll
improvements?
have to defer to Ryan on that because I
Okay.
wasn't at that meeting.
Yeah, and I thought that we had come up with $1 million in regards to those public improvements. So I will have to go back and see where that difference is.
So I just have one further comment there, that the cost approach conclusion, which includes the external obsolescence, is a financial analysis and not a listing of costs. And so if part of that is included in the $1 million, that seems not quite kosher to me.
Yeah.
But the that's my comment, is that I think that we should have an Exhibit B that reflects the $1 million of what is an eligible expense.
I had the same kind of concern there, John, that let's list that $1 million where it's going into, so we know, and I think that's reasonable to ask,
And so they know.
and they know what the expectation is. Anybody else have a comment on that? Amy?
Chairman Payne, my recollection of that conversation was that we anticipated the $774,554.74 in public infrastructure items, and that we as a board were comfortable with the additional up to 1 million, so that it was reimbursement for the public infrastructure up to that amount, and then that there was this additional that we were planning to approve over and above the public infrastructure items. That's my recollection of our previous discussion.
Well, it seemed to me like we were concerned about some cost overruns with the cost of materials the way they were due to COVID. I believe that was part of it, my recollection.
And I'm good with that. I mean, that's great. It's just, this is really just a contract comment, that our contract should list something that totals up to $1 million.
Yeah, and if 250,000 is cost overruns, then we know that's what it is.
And as long as it's listed in Exhibit B.
Does that make sense to everybody, I guess?
Yeah, one of the challenges with determining a gap is that, and I spoke to the consultants about this a couple of times, is that the definition calls for qualifying expenses, but a qualifying gap can be determined by market value. The analysis that they do is a market value analysis. And then the evidence of the appraisal and the coming to light, and the cost way over and above the appraisal, that also identifies a qualifying expense in terms of urban renewal. So there's different ways to define it in this one code, I guess you could say, that make it a little confusing.
Well, it sounded like what we're looking for is just the a specific graphic that shows the line items of what it's paying for and has a grand total of $1 million. So it's
And if
specifically there.
if there's a qualifying expense, which is different than an eligible expense, a qualifying expense that qualifies under our Urban Renewal Authority rules, that's fine. I don't have any problem with that. I mean, this is not a dollars and cents really discussion. It's really just a contract language to make sure that we're all on the same page for expectations.
We
Yeah.
can make that happen.
So I guess my question, Catherine, is if we ask for that, can we still approve this contract and sign it with the amendment that we will have this, or do we need to wait and have that intact before approving?
You can, but I think I prefer you wait. So it's the way that you want it.
And I think Ben Farrisee would agree. I know he would agree that we,
And
Because
think this is-
because I think a lot of people were in some conversations and executive sessions and others weren't, and I just think it's best you see what that
Yeah.
looks like before you approve it.
And we're still in our learning process, and I think this is an important part of the learning process, that just some highlights with a highlight pen isn't gonna be enough for us. We want it more solid.
We can put together a spreadsheet with those eligible expenses and including a line item for what we'll call COVID inflation.
Yeah, yeah,
Then we
which
can
I
do
think
that.
is reasonable, yeah. So with that, we would probably hold off on calling for a motion for the executive director to sign the redevelopment agreement until we get that, probably till next month. Does that sound right? Okay.
Is that, will that put a hitch in the Pharisee brothers get along on this project?
No, not at all. He actually recommended that we table it if there's any questions or concerns, because he would rather be here, to
Okay.
answer questions, so, no,
Okay.
that doesn't cause any problems.
Okay.
All right. So that gets basically moved till next month. Is there anything else, Ryan, on that?
No, we don't have anything else.
Do we need a
For any
motion to
discussion.
table, or are we good?
Oh, we're good, we can just bring it back.
Let's continue.
Okay. So we're just moving it. We don't really need a table. Okay, sounds good. Okay, do you have anything else? Rick, do you have anything?
I do not.
Okay, anybody got anything else? Go Dodgers. With that,
Okay, well, now we got something to say.
with that, we are adjourned.